We live in a world where fighting games are pushing the standards. It's one of the best times to ever be alive as a fighting game fan. Rollback netcode is now a standard. Lots of training options so you can lab the most specific setups is also a standard. Crossplay is quickly becoming a standard. So how come when you add another dimension to this 2D fighting game and it becomes a 3D arena fighter, suddenly it's okay to not even have lobbies at launch? When I say that you are wrong about arena fighters, I mean players, but mostly I mean devs and publishers. Because the player's perspective is very much justified. If the arena fighters we get are lesser games when compared to fighting games, then of course, the players and fans' perspective of arena fighters is that they're low effort, low budget games, and cash grabs. Often with no post-launch balance support and with no competitive focus whatsoever. I personally believe that players' perspective on this is slowly shifting, but for the full shift to happen, it needs to come from developers and publishers. And I think most of them still believe there is no point in investing harder in arena fighters, and I'm here to prove otherwise. I recently hosted the biggest tournament that I've ever done. Ultimate Burst was a multi-game 2-day tournament with 4 main games. 3 of them were arena fighters. The other one was a very well-established fighting game, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, I treated all 4 games as equals, and the event confirmed something that I always thought. At a competitive level, these 4 games are not so different. And I've got the numbers to prove it. But first, a quick message from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Ridge. If you've never heard of the Ridge wallet before, here's a quick breakdown. It holds up to 12 cards, plus has room for cash while remaining as slim as possible. It comes in more than 30 styles and colors and is designed with RFID materials protecting you from digital pickpocketers. And with the optional AirTag attachment, you will never have to lose your wallet again. This is the wallet that I've been using for over 2 years now, and they have over 80,000 5-star reviews, so you know it's good. If you've ever considered buying a Ridge wallet, now is the time to do it, because you could get a car. Yup, Ridge can turn your next wallet into a Hennessy Bronco Velociraptor, and here's how. You can enter the sweepstakes for free on their website by clicking my link down below and signing up with your email or SMS. Then you get a bonus entry for every dollar that you spend on the website. And custom Hennessy products come with up to 1,000 entries. So you're getting the best wallet that you've ever had in your life, and you're buying a ton of entries to win a new car. If you're just not looking for a wallet, do not worry, I love some of their other products too, like the new Ridge rings or the new Ridge key cases that hold between 1 to 6 keys securely, preventing them from jingling in your pocket, and you can even get up to a 30% discount if you buy them together with a wallet. The Ridge team is so confident that you'll like their products that they'll let you test drive them for 99 days and just send them back for a full refund if you don't love them. And the wallets are made of such durable material that they come with a lifetime warranty. That's right, one wallet for life. So get your Ridge wallet and enter the sweepstakes for free by registering at ridge.com/Globku. And if you buy something using code Globku, you'll get a 10% discount and 10 bonus entries. The link is down below. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring this video. The rules for all tournaments were surprisingly different. The setup was also pretty much the same and the staff to run them. And yeah, maybe the rules for Storm are a bit longer because there's a bunch of banned characters, but again, that's because Storm 4 was never balanced as a competitive game. But it doesn't stop there. Here are the views for day 2 of Ultimate Burst. Tenkaichi was the first game of the day, and understandably, it had the lowest views. I mean, let's face it is a throwback tournament, something cool for nostalgia, but most people were here for the other 3. And so when Storm came around, it almost doubled the Tenkaichi views. It was actually the peak of the live stream viewership during Grand Finals. Then came Dragon Ball FighterZ, and viewership actually went down a little bit, but still well above Tenkaichi. So I would say the FighterZ views were pretty solid, and then Demon Slayer matched the Storm average views without that big peak on Grand Finals, however. And I think it's very obvious why we didn't get that Grand Finals peak with Demon Slayer, because we had a Susamuru mirror for most of it. When the Grand Finals reset started with 2 Susamuru getting a timeout draw without even touching each other, and then another one tying up the first match, I knew we were in for a long set. What riveting gameplay, and yes, this did happen multiple times during this game. This was one of the biggest Demon Slayer tournaments of all time, and a lot of eyes were on it. Not a single pair liked what they saw. This is obviously horrible from a marketing standpoint, but was anyone from Sega or Aniplex even watching? Have they kept up with any of this? Because this has been going on for months. If they are watching, then it certainly doesn't feel that way. If they had any intention of keeping this game afloat for longer, then this would have never happened. We would have never gotten to a point where Susamuru is the strongest character in the roster, with zoning being the best way to play the game without any real counter to it. When this happens in fighting games, there's usually a big shift. There's usually a big patch that changes things because this is damaging your player base, and that will affect DLC sales in the next season pass. But if there's no season pass to sell, then what's the point in investing in balanced patches for arena fighters? And keep in mind, we had a lot of interesting matches too. Demon Slayer has a fantastic competitive foundation foundation, it's just the Susamaru meta has been established for a while, and for a second it even looked like Yahaba was gonna be the counter. Honestly, I'm kinda glad he wasn't in the end, because I'm not sure if that's a better solution than Susamaru mirrors, but that's another point for another day. And I'd love to say that Naruto Storm is any better, but I really can't. There's a bit of rivalry between the Storm and the Demon Slayer player bases where no one can enjoy their own game without calling the other one trash. Anime fans, you know how it is. But if Demon Slayer is lacking balance, the Storm community has accepted for a long time that they were not getting any support, and they just banned a ton of characters. So we did get some decent character variety during the whole tournament, but the issues that Storm has are kind of structural and happen outside the matches themselves. Well, there are also some glitches that might be kind of hard to catch sometimes mid-match, and that might give some unfair advantage to some players. I am pretty sure this was supposed to be a draw, but player 1 port priority gave Zui the win. That's the game we're playing, I guess. But what I mean is that the game actually launched with no spectator mode, and they had no plans to add it post-launch. If it wasn't for Afro, I fully believe that Storm 4 would have no way to spectate matches still. So the way they fixed that was by adding a new game mode called Endless, which is kind of a King of the Hill game mode. That's the only way to spectate matches in Storm 4, which means in tournament there's a really long waiting time in between matches. And that's because this lobby has no dedicated spectator slots. So I bring in the commentator's camera to keep the stream distracted, but in the background what's happening is I'm waiting for 20 seconds, so my turn to play expires and I go back on queue to watch these two players play. And I was told that I was actually lucky that the lobby only broke once during the entire tournament, so I guess I'll take it. Now that's more of a nuisance than anything, and you could argue that Storm 4 was a single player game first and a multiplayer game second, but the same cannot be said for the upcoming Storm Connections, because that game will be supported with balance patches and will have a season pass with characters coming out, and yet the game is launching without any way for you to invite your friends to play. Online tournaments for this game are impossible to hold because you cannot invite another player to play. The game is launching with online ranked and online casual matches, but in both game modes, you're getting matched with someone completely random. We're not talking about the bad netcode anymore. We're not talking about the lack of spectator mode. We're talking about friend invites. This would never happen in a fighting game in 2023. Isn't that right? Prize pool wise, I was actually very surprised too. Tenkaichi, as expected, was the lowest prize pool, but still very respectable for such a throwback game. Fighters was actually the second lowest prize pool here. By comparison, Demon Slayer got $170 more than Dragon Ball FighterZ, and Storm, well, let's just say we got a crazy donation. Now, this is all viewer supported, and I'm kind of using this to gauge audience interest, but you also have to recognize that there are whales in every game, so one person might make the entire difference. And you might say that Arena Fighters also got a bigger prize pool because the tournament was streamed on my channel, which is a bit more Arena Fighter centric. And to that I would argue that if you look at the wanted Demon Slayer prize pools that I have on my channel and compare them to the prize pools of Dragon Ball FighterZ wanted that Damascus holds on his channel, and his channel is all about fighting games, then you can still see that Demon Slayer wins by a landslide. And this is not me bashing Damascus. If anything, I'm calling DBFZ viewers broke. And they would agree. But if I was in their position, I probably wouldn't donate so hard for Dragon Ball FighterZ either, because Dragon Ball FighterZ has offline events with pretty big prize pools. Those have always been seen as the main events, so there's not much respect for an online tournament for Dragon Ball FighterZ. For Arena Fighters, however, online tournaments is kind of all there is. So this is the peak of an Arena Fighter prize pool, and if we compare it to the peak of an offline Dragon Ball FighterZ prize pool, yeah, that doesn't even compare. But still, I think the numbers shown today, if anything, show that there's a similar interest by viewers and players alike in competitive arena fighters the same way that there is for fighting games. So what is stopping us from leveling those up? Usually when something is bad from an anime game, 9 times out of 10, it's the license holder's fault. It's Shueisha, Aniplex, Trigger, all of those license holders. These studios treat video games as marketing for their own IP to boost anime, manga, or merchandise popularity instead of treating them as their own thing. So naturally they end up being worse than the non-licensed games. I believe this is the main reason why arena fighters are often worse than fighting games. But that's 9 times out of 10. There's a 1 times out of 10 where something magical happens. Now, I've heard many troubling stories coming out of Dragon Ball FighterZ, which would probably explain why we don't even have rollback yet. So I'm not gonna pretend like DBFZ was smooth sailing. I think everyone remembers when Toei wanted to shut down DBFZ tournaments. That's a great example of them not understanding this space at all. But Bandai and Arxis made it happen. They battled, they fought for it, they fought for the players, they fought for this game, and they eventually made the impossible dream come true. So License holders make things much harder to happen, but it's been proven that it is possible. You can sell this concept to license holders. You can prove that there's value in making a long-standing fighting game or a long-standing arena fighter. So if it's not the IP holders, what is it? Is it because of video games' expected sales? Surely not. Naruto Storm 4 recently became the best-selling anime game of all time with 12 million units sold. Comparing it to the best-selling fighting games of all time, it is only surpassed by Smash, Street Fighter 2, and a couple of Mortal Kombats. And yet, if you compare what Storm 4 has in terms of competitive support and game features to any of these games, it's ridiculous how much it's lacking. How are you in the top 10 best-selling fighting games of all time, and you're releasing a game without a way to invite people to fight against you? It boggles my mind. But Storm 4 was an anomaly. It sold like crazy. It's not like every anime game gets that. Well, most of them sell pretty well, actually. Jump Force sold 5 million, putting it on Marvel vs. Capcom 3 level. Demon Slayer sold 3 million, putting it around the Mortal Kombat 9 sales. My Hero One's Justice is hard to tell, but both games combined sold 2.5 million, which is more than Guilty Gear Strive and Grand Blue Fantasy Versus combined. Granted, with licensed games, each party gets a smaller piece because you're not just a publisher and the developer anymore, there's also a license holder, and those don't come cheap. But the money is there. It's always been. Meaning it's not sales, it's not IP holders, it's not the player or viewer interest, so what is it? You tell me.